you absolutely can prepare in the baseline of knowing what good board governance looks like and the ability to continually lead them to sit in the right role. Where boards start to fall, and you see it everywhere, is boards get in the weeds or the boards stay in politics, right? There are many things you can read that say, a board member, when they're running for the seat, they're in the political mode, right? They are. They're running for the seat, they're trying to get the votes, but the minute they get the votes and they're in the seat, they have to be able now to switch from politics to governance. And many don't transition over.
You're listening to School District Superheroes, a podcast that puts the super back in superintendents. In each episode, you'll learn how today's most innovative superintendents are reimagining what's possible for students, staff, and their communities. And now for your host, Nick Telford.
Welcome, Katie Russell, to the School District Superheroes podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
One of the first questions I always ask guests on the podcast, you might have cheated by viewing a few already, but who was your favorite superhero growing up?
Yes, I did cheat and hear some, but I think I have one I don't think I've heard. It's actually Wonder Woman. For two reasons. One, I think it was actually a cartoon. I'm not a big cartoon person at all. I was more into the Gilligan's Island and Brady Bunch, not cartoons. But if I watch one, it was Wonder Woman. First of all, I liked the whole outfit because it looked really fabulous, but yet strong. And I feel like I want to represent looking good, feeling good, but a strength behind it. And so I feel I connect with her that way. But I also think about her strength in the superhero. Yeah, she did some things with her lasso and stuff, but I always remember the invisible jet or plane. And she could shield herself from people. People couldn't see her. And I think about the superintendent role, and so many times it's hard to really know what people are thinking because your role comes ahead of it. So you feel like, how much are people really telling you the truth? How much truth is really getting up to you? And you'll probably hear sometimes the higher you go, the less truth you hear. So I feel like if you had an invisible plane and you're going through, then you could really see and hear the truth, which would allow you to make better decisions at a quicker pace, rather than a lot of times we're trying to dig through and, okay, what's the real underneath? So I think for those reasons, I choose Wonder Woman.
Fantastic. Well, it is the first. And I remember Wonder Woman myself growing up. So it appealed to all genders.
Yes.
Yeah, it's certainly superhero and suits you perfectly, may I say.
Yeah, well, thank you.
On the website of the Panama Buena Vista School District website, it states that you, for this district, are the first woman and first African-American superintendent in the district's 150-year history.
Yes.
So I am intrigued I'd love to understand your journey to on the path to be a superintendent. And feel free to go as far back as you like, but I'd love to understand that journey to reach such a milestone. And I think it's very impressive.
Yeah, no, thank you. I look back and sometimes you go, it's so short, and then other times I think it was a long journey. I think people forget the journey. I think our culture is, you get things quickly and it was easy, and it wasn't easy. But at the same time, it was challenging and enjoyable. I think I would say if you just look at the roles I took, it was pretty standard in moving from a teacher all the way up to the superintendent. I spent a good amount of years as a teacher, which I think is really important. I was 10 years in teaching multiple grade levels, which I think, as I share a few things, I think experiences matter. I know in future you might ask an advice question, and I would go back to this. I think the more experiences you can get, the better you are going to be as a leader, no matter where your journey ends in education. So teaching, I taught 4 different grade levels at primary, intermediate, and junior high level. I then moved into administration, and I had the unique role of a part-time administrator, part-time teacher. I would say it was probably one of the best roles because I could go in and out of each. And so teachers would say, "Are you a teacher right now or an administrator?" "Oh, I'm a teacher." And they would tell you everything. And so it was nice to go back and forth between the two roles. I only had the opportunity to do that 2 years. Then I moved into, it was a program manager at the time. It's really a vice principal, but it was paid for out of Title I, so you call it a program manager. And did that for 2 years, and then went into the principal role. And I was in a principal role for, ooh, 7 years at the elementary level and 2 years at the junior high level. And then I moved into the district office, starting as an assistant superintendent of instruction. And then the ability, they created a role called the instructional superintendent, which really meant then, because in Fresno Unified, if I had mentioned, in Fresno Unified, very big at the time, over 73,000 kids, 106 schools. And so as an instructional superintendent, I was really over all the schools, and my team was a team of assistant superintendents that would work with different regions within the district because we were so big. But what that opportunity gave me is I was able to then sit at the superintendent table, right at the cabinet level. And the way it was structured there, which again, I'm not sure, and if we have time, I'm not sure, I haven't done that structure as a superintendent. But for my learning, it was great because everything at the school sites ran through me. And then so I was HR, I was facilities, I was in their mind. Now, I had to be that middleman and talk to the HR department and the heads of facilities and the heads of operations. But in regards to all those logistics and then pulling it to the site as a leader was a really, really good learning experience. And I think really improved my skills in preparation to be a superintendent. So those are my baseline skills that I have that I think prepared me. Now, when you talk about emotionally going in, I will tell you, without a mentor, I don't know if I would have sought the superintendent role. I think I felt pretty happy in a big district as a very top leader. Was at the end of my journey. I enjoyed it. But I had mentors saying there's more, and we think you can give more. And your ability to, I always heard, I think you interviewed Kent Beckler. He would always say you have to think about some roles you are more supervisor, like you're over the whole thing. So you think of a principal and a superintendent. They really are leading over kind of their own systems. Whereas when you're in a district office level, you're kind of a line job. And I didn't realize how much that started. It's great experience, and I think really you need it to be a superintendent. You have to be able to have that position and know what it's like. But it's hard because you're leading down and you're leading up. And when you're leading up, I'm always going to be loyal to who I'm leading up to, but I don't always agree. And to be in that position where, okay, I don't agree, but I have to lead that way, going into a superintendent role and now being able to be back in that role of truly leading is a great place to be. So you hear the superintendent role, it can be the hardest role, and I would agree, but definitely the most rewarding. And so breaking into that, I interviewed, and I've told people this story. I interviewed for 9 superintendent positions. I will tell you it was the hardest thing, and I'm shocked I didn't give up because when you interview for a superintendent role, I'm going to go all in. Number one, I don't want to go anywhere. I didn't just want a superintendent role for a superintendent role. I wanted to be able to make a difference, feel like this is a district that the board felt I was worthy and could do the job, and that I could live there and live in the community. So all those things had to align. And then once they aligned, then you go all in and practice and know what you learn about the district so that you can truly go in there and interview for that district, not just the superintendent role, but a superintendent role for that position. And so to do that is a lot of work, and a lot of investment. And so, and every time actually in the 8 of the 9, I was in the top 2. So then you get to that, you know you're in the final, and you go in, and then you don't get it, and you don't get it. And through my research, every time I didn't get it, who got it, 8 of the 9, I was beat out by a male. And it, whether that's, you can sit there and go, oh, it's just, by chance. I don't believe it's by chance. I think being a woman of color, it is more difficult, and you need a board that's willing to take a chance and a chance to stand up to the community that might be against it. When you're going in a district, which the board was willing to give me a chance, that I was the first female and the first female of color. They were taking chance on 2 different dynamics that the district had never seen before. And so I think in many cases, the boards weren't willing to take that chance. And I will tell you, it was frustrating because I think as consultant agencies that are doing search, they want to bring a very diverse group to the board. And so I met that diversity, but it's hard because it's like, okay, am I just here to meet this quota of having a great team to interview, but they're not really willing to take a chance on you. And toward the end, I almost wanted to just say, no, if you don't think this board's willing to take a chance on a female or someone of color, don't make me interview, because I'm always going to give my best, and that takes a lot. And so it was hard. I mean, the perseverance, now that I made it, maybe I would not go back and change it because it probably made me stronger, but it was absolutely the hardest thing I ever did.
Wow, that is quite a story. I didn't know that either. Like, what do you think prepared you for that experience? Were there anything going back into your early career or even life that you obviously have a zeal to you? You have a character trait that is quite unique and very inspirational. How do you think that was developed over the years to allow you to go through that?
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. I think that one, well, actually 3, but the 2 going from teacher all the way up, I've always come across being in rooms with people that don't respect me just because of the color of my skin. I mean, it isn't new. It's just that I think through my growing up, I always truly believed in my heart that if people get to know who you are, they will get past that, and you will break down those barriers and you will break down those biases. And so when you're in a situation where you come across it, I'll pull out one. I was a principal at a school, angry parents coming up. I want to speak to the principal. I introduce, hi, I'm Katie Russell, I'm the principal. How can I help you? No, I want to talk to the principal. I thought, okay, they're too angry. They're not hearing me. I am the principal. I'm Katie Russell. How can I help you? No, I want to talk to the real principal. And he looked above me and he looked over at my assistant principal, who was a white male, and said, that's who I want to talk to. It's like, wow, okay, right? And so I said, no, he's not the principal. And so, you get through it and you move forward. But I think because to my heart, sometimes people would look at it as make excuses, but the man was angry. The man has biases, never saw a female like me in that kind of role. But once I sat down with him and talked everything through, he apologized. I'm sorry, I was upset, and I take that apology and hope that in future he will now come up to somebody else that isn't me and know that they might be in that role, right? So I think those two parts of, yes, I've come across it many a time, and how I deal with it has helped me in that role of persevering and being knocked down multiple times. So that's it. And then I would say the last part that helped me persevere, honestly, and I don't think you'd mind me saying his name is Camp Beckler, was one of my mentors, and he truly believed that I should be a superintendent and I would have the right skill set to make a difference. And so every time I was knocked down, he would bring me back up. Like, nope, you can do it. And so I think the ability of having mentors that really see you and help you through some of those times, and then my experiences in the past. So I think it's that helped me persevere.
Mentorship has come up through some of these conversations I've had, and Kent obviously is a really unique skill set he has, and he's mentored a number of superintendents who are and seem very, very grateful, and very unsurprisingly so. Do you see yourself as being able to take on that role for others now? Are you currently involved in any mentorship?
Like at the end of the day, I always feel like I'm a teacher, even in the superintendent role. So whether it's a teacher of students or a teacher of adults, that gives me so much joy to mentor somebody or build somebody's capacity or give them a new skill set that they see is supporting them and building them up to be the best person they can be. So that's the greatest reward. So I've done it throughout my career, no matter what role I've turned around. If I was a teacher, to help teachers, as an administrator to help administrators. And currently, when I moved to Kern County, because I was in Fresno County at Fresno Unified, and I came here, the unique thing about Bakersfield is, which is very new to me coming from Fresno, is they have 46 districts. So that is, Kern County is the biggest county in California. So you have 46 districts, from the smallest serving 100 kids to the largest serving 40,000 kids. And so being in that experience and working with people from Kern County and bringing some of my skill set from Fresno, I have actually brought many things to Kern County that hadn't ever happened before. And it's nice to hear they're like, wait, how are you doing that? Wait, you do a self-evaluation on yourself? Like the number of superintendents that were never evaluated. Of course, maybe they don't love that I came and brought a lot of that to Kern County, but and so I've put myself in those roles. And then even with some consultants on the outside, I've been asked to speak at certain conferences, and then people have met with me on the side. So it's absolutely something that I want to continue even after I leave this role, is to support now other superintendents and potentially boards. I think boards are very complex. And even though I haven't been a board member, you're part of that board member team, right? You're just the sixth man. If it's really going well and you're leading and supporting really board governance, which I think is critical. And I've learned a lot sitting in the seat. So I actually think I could see myself supporting different boards as well. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something I will probably do till I die.
Fantastic. The boards have come up also as a common topic. I presume that, I know you've been in the district for a number of years. The board that took a chance on you said took a chance on you. That board, I presume we've got a great relationship with them. Is there anything you could share for folks listening, folks who might be in a superintendent position right now, about how a great functioning dynamic works between a board and the superintendent / cabinet?
Working with boards is it's a whole different skill set. Some you can prepare for and some you can't. Like anything, you bring the personal side of it and the uniqueness of each board member. There's only so much you can do to prepare for that. But you absolutely can prepare in the baseline of knowing what good board governance looks like and the ability to continually lead them to sit in the right role. Because I think where boards start to fall, and you see it everywhere, is boards get in the weeds or the boards stay in politics, right? There are many things you can read that say, a board member, when they're running for the seat, they're in the political mode, right? They are. They're running for the seat. They're trying to get the votes. But the minute they get the votes and they're in the seat, they have to be able now to switch from politics to governance and what that really looks like. And many don't transition over. And so I feel my role is to really continue to highlight that. I do it through retreats, which is very important. I do it through anytime you add a new board member. I go back to every year a seat is up. I meet at least 2 times with every single person running for the seat. I don't wait till they're in the seat, because what I do believe is when they're trying to run and the politics comes in and I'm running because I want to change this, if you have a little bit in their ear about what you're trying to do, I find many times they start to take that momentum. So why not, right? Whether they get in the seat or not. And so those are strategic moves that I'm doing even before they get in the seat. Then once they get in the seat, you're spending time, because now you have a whole new team. Just because you only added 1 member, you have a whole new team. And so it's important to bring them into the fold and continually talking about the governance, which is not just letting them learn what governance looks like and what their part is in the trustee area or into the board as a team, but it also reminds every single board member what board governance is, because they can very easily drop. And then I think it's having the confidence, and the longer you're in the role, the more confidence you'll get, is there's no way they're not going to trip up. They will. I don't like surprises. Every so often they'll put in a surprise. Every so often they'll go into the weeds. And so when they drop out of that governance mindset, I make it a point to bring it up. And it depends how I do it, because it depends on the trustee themselves and what I know is going to be effective to bring it up and say, hey, that really caught my team off guard, or why did you go that route? Did you feel you couldn't get to me earlier? And so again, depending on the trustee, depends how I handle it, but I will tell you, I address it no matter what, because if you let it go, it's just the first step in letting it completely go. And then there are sometimes, I've been very fortunate, and I think a lot of it is the strategic way I work with it, but sometimes you can't help who gets on your board. And then I think you've got to go, okay, well, I have 4 that have been under, and then you hone in on that and hope that random one going off, their voice kind of becomes mute because the other 4 are so strong. So you have to work with it depending on who's sitting around your table.
Interesting. I like when you said when you get a new member, you have a whole new team.
And I think people miss that. I think if that was the advice when I talk to other superintendents, and they'll get frustrated. I don't like dealing with the board. Well, then you shouldn't become a superintendent, because that's half the battle. It's more than half. If you want your district to be successful, your board has to be where they are. If not, you've got a barrier, and it will slow everything down. And so you really have to, I feel like I'm that bridge many times. I have to be able to build context and let them see some of the why of why we're doing it so they can get on board and support it. And yet they have to have a voice. This is where sometimes my staff, I can't believe they asked that question. Well, because that's all they know. It's not to be mean. They're not an educator. So they're asking a question at the level that they can ask it. You might think it's a stupid question, but they don't have your knowledge. So let's respect that and take that question and answer it to the best of our ability to build their knowledge, but don't take it as a criticism. But many times staff will. So I play that bridge because I want staff to also respect the board. I've seen that negative, where if you badmouth the board or you I get frustrated with the board, but I really actually try to hide quite a bit of that from staff. Because if they start to get on board, they're either fearful of the board and so they get nervous presenting to them, or they're angry with them, and it just causes a relationship that you don't want to have. So I do think it's the superintendent's job to create a relationship also between them and your staff, and keeping them a little bit distant from your staff, right? Because if they get too close, I just think it starts to, then they're in the weeds more because they're talking more directly with your staff. So
Well, in addition to the great board you have, you also talked to me offline about how great you feel your cabinet is right now. And so it seems that you have two teams, because they're teams, right? The board is a team, the cabinet's a team, and you've got those team dynamics right. So I want to ask you about this, your secret sauce for how to effectively put together a dynamic team that works together and is successful and is manageable from a superintendent level.
yeah, well, luckily it's the thing I love to do the most, so that does make it great. I love building capacity of individuals and teams. The executive cabinet is a team, but I would say I'm doing simultaneous building of their individual leadership as equally as I'm building capacity of that team to work effectively. And I think about, what's always in my head about what's the number one job of the superintendent as it comes in regards to leading the district. I'm not talking about the board now, but leading the district is building culture and strategy. And so when I think of that executive cabinet, everything starts at the top, everything. So I therefore have to build culture there, and then I have to build the strategy for us to achieve those goals. And so I think in working with that team and challenging each other and having time, it isn't all about the work. If you don't build a culture, if you don't build that culture of whatever we design, and I say we because when I came into the district, knowing my role is to build culture and strategy, then we spent, and I don't think I shared this, but I came into the district in the pandemic, right in the middle. I was hired in March, and to start taking over a district where the majority of people are on remote and you don't have a connection with them personally or on Zoom online like we are, I still, even though it was a huge challenge, how was I going to build culture? Because if I don't do that right off the bat, I just knew we wouldn't be successful. And so I took a whole year. It was online and it was building culture with what I called my district leadership team. The district leadership team includes all the assistant superintendents, which is the cabinet you were asking me about. It includes all the directors, it includes all the principals, and it includes all the vice principals. So that in my district of 20,000 kids, adult wise, is about 85 adults. So once a month with 85 adults for an entire year, we went through a process to define our culture and who we are. And at the end of that year, so I mean, it took a long time, a lot of research, reading articles. Who are we? What are we about? What do we want to be known for? What's that underlying culture that can be seen sometimes because of the way we actually talk, and sometimes it's just a feeling. And at the end of that year, the three areas that define our culture is purpose, caring, and results. And those were defined by the end of year one. And we have lived by those three mantras everywhere. I keep them alive, and it's kept alive all the way at the top, from my trustees to my executive cabinet. We are a district with purpose, we care, and we have results. And so I think with the executive cabinet, when you think about that, then how are we living out purpose? And that could be purpose of our entire district, what we're about, what we're doing, but it could also be our purpose in the moment. What are we trying to do around professional learning? What's our purpose? That we always do it with care. We always think about the people before programs. You have to keep it. How are we caring as we go through and implement? And then what are our goals? What are our actions? What are our results? How are we monitoring? That all comes under results. And so as an executive cabinet, we have to live that. And what I found coming in, and I would say other superintendents are going to find, is in a lot of districts, we tend to be siloed, especially at the top. And the way you're designed is to be siloed. You have divisions or departments, however you decide to name them, and people get stuck in that. So your assistant superintendent over human resources, they only see human resources, everything there. Operations and grounds, that's all they see. And so to bring that together in an executive cabinet and be able to say, yes, you have to lead, you have to build capacity of your team. But at the end of the day, the number one team is this team around this table. It is not the team you're leading. Your number one team is here. And so that has taken a long time, so that they're really thinking of the crossover of departments. So when I take an action, what is that doing to instruction? What is that doing to our special services department division? What is that doing to human resources? When we pick up a grant, do we really think that the grant isn't going to impact fiscal? Because they're going to have to give the money. Is it not going to impact instruction because we have to carry it out and let the principal know, right? Is it not human resources that now is going to have to hire all the people you just signed a grant for? But too many times, we just go, we get the grant, and we didn't get anybody's, what's that impact on the system? And so when you truly have that number one team and they're coming in, then they're there for each other and they're thinking of that first. And then when we now have it, we have our purpose, we're doing it with care, we know how we're going to implement, we know it, now they can go to their teams and effectively get that through the system.
It sounds like you're making sure that at the leadership level, there's crystal clarity on what the purpose is and the objective is of what you're trying to achieve. It
Yes.
takes a while to get there. But once you get that, then it can cascade down to the rest of the people.
Right.
Fascinating, and I'm sure that also gels the team together more. If they know that they're the people
Oh,
who are
yes. I mean, it's like your second home. I mean, really, education is tough. And demands on every educator, from the top of the system to the classroom to the grounds crew to everything. What the demands on people today, even in the last 10 years, is it's fascinating to really see and watch. And so if you don't have that purpose and caring, right, that will fall because it's hard work. But people are willing to do hard work if they have some enjoyment in it. My favorite word is joy, and I bring it through. If you don't have joy, then why are we here? It's too hard a job. And so I think when you have that connection there and you enjoy each other's company in the workplace and after, it just makes you the best team to lead a district.
I wonder, do you think it's harder to be a administrator now than it was, say, 10 years ago?
I do, and I say it with caution because it's so funny that when you're in it, if you go back 10 years, I bet you people would say, oh, it's so tough, right? It's so hard. So is it Is it really? But what I would say is the reason I would double down that yes, I think it is because the more when you look over history, we've added more and more to everyone's plate, and it's faster and faster and faster and faster. And so at the time, with whatever, 10 years ago, it was as fast as it could be, right? So it's tough. You're having, but now it's even faster, so it's tough up here. And I know you haven't asked it, but I think just it's leading education, and we have to lead it, is artificial intelligence and what that is doing to leadership. And I think it has brought a whole nother dynamic that we don't even see exactly what it's going to do. And it's just going so fast. That is one of the difficulties in how to lead that when we've never had that kind of technology before. I think the other thing that is making everything harder is that I definitely think there's a mindset that everyone has to be perfect. And when you are not perfect, you are ridiculed, jumped on, yelled at, and or sued. So as a principal, I think those kinds of things cause people to lead in fear. And leading in fear is the worst thing you can do. But I think our society has started to create that. And so as a superintendent, I'm battling that all the time because I'm trying to take that away, even though the dynamic is there, how it's still okay to make mistakes, and how we will support you even if you are yelled at, even if you make it on the news, even if we're in a lawsuit and we have to pay out. If that was an honest mistake and you're not going to make that mistake again and you learn from it, as your superintendent, I will support it every day. If we don't continue to put that in the room, people just lead in fear. So I think those two dynamics, the artificial intelligence, and then also just how much demand is given to be perfect. I think those two things have made all leadership role, and I say leadership, I say teachers, any of our roles.
Sure. Yeah. I yeah, it's really interesting. And maybe the silver lining to that is that it's raising the bar. I know it is becoming more stressful. It's raised the bar for ultimately the students who receive the end product. And as long as people can, keep their heads, ideally they are getting the fruits of the hard work and the labor that's going in from everyone, around them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think too, just putting those two difficult things together, artificial intelligence and then how we have to be perfect, I think honestly there's a connection there. And what I mean by that is that there are many good things if we could, and it's something I'm an initiative. I know you ask that question sometimes, what are initiatives? Definitely on how we lead with artificial intelligence. We've spent an entire year with intense focus with that district leadership team I talked about of 85 people. And it's one thing, how to use artificial intelligence as a tool and how to use it to enhance what you're doing in order to be better, right? And if you can, as a thought partner, not somebody that's doing your job, as a thought partner, and a way to that the rote stuff that you used to take a lot of time doing, if this machine, artificial intelligence, can do some of that, does that give you more time to be in the classroom? Does that give you more time to build your relationships? Does that give you more time to give feedback, to build people's? If that is doing that, then that's a very good use of that tool, right? And so I think combining those so that you do have time to make less mistakes, be able to learn, have a thought partner so that you're able to do your job effectively. I think if we could mirror those two together, then that's a way to support leaders.
Very true. I always think that if it can take AI can come in and help take those autonomous jobs and repetitive roles and speed things up for folks in leadership roles to allow you focus on the stuff that only you can do, that requires the personality of that individual, then it's a win-win. But yeah, that's I think, great way to put it. And that relationship between getting better and using AI to make us closer to perfect. I don't think we'll ever get there, but no, thanks. Any last piece of advice for folks who are maybe aspiring leaders in education that you'd like to share?
One of the pieces of advice I would say is you have to know yourself, truly know yourself of who you are personally and professionally and what drives your work. And it sounds so easy, but I actually don't think people really dig in to know that about themselves and how they live that out in whatever current role they're in. I would give advice to practice that, because if you don't have that, you don't have your why and how you're really going to get that and stand on your morals. That doesn't mean you stand your ground and never change, but the superintendent role is tough, and there's a lot of people coming at you for those decisions. And I want to go this way and I want to go this way. And if you don't have that set in yourself, I feel like your district it won't have any focus or clarity, because you're just kind of agreeing to different things. Because at the end of the day, that area might be great. It might be a really good way to go, but there are lots of good ideas. If you don't have them focused in one direction, it just won't come to fruition. So I think the number one thing is to know that and test it in yourself. And when you have that line, how are you sharing that with folks where they understand it and they want to follow you? Because if you just have a hard line and they don't want to follow you, well, then don't be a superintendent, because leadership is about you bring people along, but they want to follow you. And so knowing yourself and your why, number one. The second I would say is study and learn. You have to constantly study the research and learn so that you are now developing who you are and your leadership style. You're watching different leaders. I would say in whatever role you're in, watch the leaders. Assess them. What do you like? What fits into your style? Because you want to try and get that as much locked down before you get into a superintendent role, because then you're in this other learning mode, and those two things need to be pretty solid.
They are two great pieces of advice, and I think for not just administrators in education, but for anybody of any level, really, to get to know yourself and your why, and to continue learning and investigating and questioning. It means a lot to hear it from you, having gone through experiences like interviewing for 9 different superintendent positions and being the first woman of color and female superintendent at your district. You've walked the walk and talked the talk, and it's great to have you here to share this with us. So thank you so much for spending the last 30 to 40 minutes with me, Katie. I've really appreciated it. I was really looking forward to having you on the podcast, and you absolutely did not disappoint at all.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoy it. So hopefully it's helpful to those listening.
Behind every successful school system is a superintendent making hard decisions, building strong teams, and putting students first every single day. These are the real superheroes shaping the future of education. Follow the show on your favorite podcast platform. And if you know someone who would be a great guest, email us at podcast@elevolearning.com. I'm Nick Telford, and this has been another episode of School District Superheroes.